The Leadership in Law podcast is powered by Law Marketing Zone. Transform your firm's digital presence with expert marketing solutions tailored exclusively for attorneys at lawmarketingzone.com.
Welcome to the Leadership in Law podcast with host Marilyn Jenkins. Cut through the noise, get actionable insights and inspiring stories delivered straight to your ears. Your ultimate podcast for navigating the ever-changing world of law firm ownership. In each episode, we dive deep into the critical topics that matter most to you, from unlocking explosive growth to building a thriving team. We connect you with successful firm leaders and industry experts who share their proven strategies and hard-won wisdom. So, whether you're a seasoned leader or just starting your journey as a law firm owner, the Leadership in Law podcast is here to equip you with the knowledge and tools you need to build a successful and fulfilling legal practice.
Welcome to another episode of the Leadership in Law podcast. I'm your host, Marilyn Jenkins. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Matt Ruttenberg, to the show today. Matt is a 401k expert and co-owner of Life Inc. Retirement Services. He's been in the finance industry for over 20 years and educates successful entrepreneurs on how to use your 401k plan as a tool for success and a rapid growth of your wealth, as opposed to just an employee benefit. I'm excited to have you here, Matt. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Marilyn. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about what got you into this industry and where you started.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty long journey, so I'll keep it relatively short. But I've been in industry finance in general for over 20 years, third generation. Did more in the B2C, did direct-to-consumer financial planning for a long time, and really wanted to be part of more of the entrepreneur side of things, because that's the part I love. I like working with business owners as opposed to the retiree world or just the individual family. I wanted to get into the business owner. I love the mindset of the entrepreneur, and it's a different framework of how they spend a lot of times. So I sold my business, merged into this company, which I partnered a lot with before, became a partner and owner of this company as well. And that's probably for the last 7 years is where I was really totally focused on nothing but 401k space. And that's all we are. We're 401k administrators, and we're absolute experts in the field. So we tend to create more of a custom model than kind of like plug and play type situation. So long journey, over 20 years, but one of those things where you figure it out as you go along your path. And that's where I can land it.
I love that. And I love that you find the energy that comes from working with entrepreneurs as opposed to, the direct family or retirement is the energy you wanted to be involved with. Because entrepreneurs, I think, are unique individuals. It's just, it takes something different to do that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. And you help law firms design their 401ks that's going to be specific for them or retirement plans. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions out there. And I mean, financial planners and CPAs even have this of all plans are for all 401k plans, I should say, are created equal. So 401k is a 401k is a 401k. That's probably about the farthest from the truth that I could explain to someone. Let's compare it to the legal industry, because we work with a lot of attorneys and lawyers, and it's like hiring legal to a legal document versus hiring the attorney.
I did that.
Exactly. Plug and play, boilerplate versus custom. So completely different model. And there's a space for that, obviously, when you're kind of looking for just more simplified plug and play. And the way we kind of work through this is we ask two questions, sometimes three. Let's start with the first one is, why do you want a 401k? Why are you talking to us? Why are you looking into it? Why did you ask your CPA about this? Honestly, like multiple choice. This is for me. I want to start stockpiling for retirement. I want to save money on my taxes. Or is it for your employees because you're maybe not quite ready to contribute for yourself? You're in growth mode. This is for the employees specifically. Or all it could be all of you. But honestly, about half the time it is all of you.
Well, let's
Especially for
I
smaller
can back you up. Can I
Absolutely.
back you up one step? I have an idea of retirement plans. Finance plans are not my suit. So let's back up and say, clearly, is a 401k where I can buy stocks within that from my salary and not have to pay tax on that? Is that what that is? And do
So-
I have the access to buy those stocks?
Yeah, and that's a really, really good question. A lot of folks, especially let's say they started with they worked for somebody and they work for a large organization. What they're used to seeing inside of a 401k plan is a menu of mutual funds, basically, or index funds.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, and that's a normal portfolio built in for the employees, and it's kind of to protect employees from themselves, so they don't go kind of too far off and investing in things that they may or may not understand. But there's 401k is a code, it's a tax code. It's one of the many tax codes. It has nothing to do with the investments itself. All it is how is the money taxed and how much, it's, you call it qualified account. So this, you put this much in, we'll give you this much. Now, side of that 401k, you can invest in a whole slew of types of investments. You have to find that custodian that will allow that. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, index funds, cryptocurrency. You can buy real estate. You can act as a private lender inside of your 401k. You think of the 401k as an umbrella, and you can have as many custodians as you want under that umbrella. You just got to figure out who's going to offer, who allows the real estate as third. And then we bring that, a lot of times it's just a bank account. Yeah. Basically anything you want, minus art. You can't invest in art, a few other things, but it really, 401k is not specific to the investment, it's specific to how it's taxed.
Okay. And the custodian that you choose to help manage it for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's 3 roles to every 401k plan. One is the administrator, who compliance piece, right? And then creating a document, making you legal and compliant. And then you have the record keeper / custodian, and that's where the money's held. That's where the money being flows into and invested with. That's the record. And then there's the fiduciary, who's managing those funds. Is it you as the business owner? Is it you? Is it a financial advisor? Sometimes we'll do it. We're the ones managing and monitoring it for you. And the whole point is liability. Who's holding the liability for everybody? And those are the 3 roles. And oftentimes those are outsourced to other parties. So the attorney can run their business and do what they do best.
Okay. So now we have 3 questions that have to be answered. Why do you want it? Yes. Okay. So let's now go back to where you were, because now I got a better, clear understanding of what the layout is.
So the first question is, like I said, why are we here? What are you looking for? And it's multiple choice. And second, and that narrows it down on what kind of plan design we want to give. And the second question is, how much do you, as the owner, want to contribute? We have a ton of people calling in who are maybe the office manager or the HR rep or the CFO or whoever it is, but they're not the one we need to talk to most of the time. The 401k design is purely based on what the owner wants to do for themselves. So if they want to max out contributions, we're going to go one route. If they don't, because they're reinvesting in their business, they need to hire more people before they start putting money in their own pocket, then we might go another route. Split this in 2. There's 2 goals, really. Are we doing this for the owner? Or are we doing this for the employees? Or is it both? And that's the way we design it.
Are you a woman attorney running your own firm but feeling like you're on a never-ending treadmill? This podcast is sponsored by Wealthy Woman Lawyer, the business coaching company that's helped hundreds of women lawyers over the past 12 years, just like you, transform revenue-draining practices into wealth-generating machines. Their clients, including Brittany and Gianni, routinely break the 7-figure barrier while working fewer hours. The difference? A systematic approach that builds a firm that works for you, not the other way around. Ready for a practice that funds your dream lifestyle and gives you time to enjoy it? Visit wealthywomanlawyer.com today.
Okay. And if I'm in growth mode, so let's assume that we have a medium-sized firm that I want to keep my employees, so the 401k would be an employee benefit.
Absolutely.
But I'm in growth mode, so I'm looking to take as much revenue as I can, put it to scale. And so what would be my next step at that point?
Yeah. And there's a specific, that's the traditional 401k. It's what we call that. The traditional plain Jane 401k is basically what we call that. And what you're doing is you're picking and choosing your matching, kind of like a cafeteria style plan where you're picking and choosing what your match is going to be, if any. If you're going to invest, there's going to be a vesting schedule on that. Like, how long does the employee need to be with you before if they left that money? It's all about protecting cash flow. It's all about protecting the assets and making sure that those employees that you're trying to incentivize to come in are the ones that you want. And we have some sort of buffer versus a 90-day. You can push that out as far as a year, how long you're willing to do that. And then it's all about how long do they need to be with you to keep what you just gave. And that's how we use that. Think of an upside down 3-tiered way. So I call it a retirement plan stack. The bottom layer is the 401k, what we just talked about. Then you can add another layer called profit sharing on top of that. And that can get you up to $70,000. So the $23,000 is on the bottom, $70,000 above that. And then the top layer, there's a numerous amount of strategies to get you over 300 grams pre-tax contributions into your retirement plan stack, as I call it. So it's all about figuring out what that first step is, what that first answer is. For the employees, maybe we only start with that bottom layer. As you grow and become more profitable, you add another layer.
And so the max for 2025. So is it like Roth IRAs have a max every year where you get invest? Does that change every year with the?
Yeah, it goes up. 2024 was 23,000 on that bottom layer of that retirement plan stack, and bumped up to 23,500 for 2025. When you add those bottom two layers, it's $70,000 is what you're allowed to put in as a business owner. And then above that, you can go over three. We have plans that we're putting $350,000 a year in all three layers.
Even just at the 23.5, that's a tremendous savings of taxes.
Absolutely. It is a tool. That's one of the biggest things I try to get across is a 401k. Yes, it's an employee benefit. Technically, that's why they created it. Just like every other IRS code out there, it's a tool for the business owner. Just that you have to do certain things for if you have employees. If you have W-2 employees, those are the ones who are eligible for these 401k. You have to take care of them first. Then you can take advantage of all these really high-level strategies that you put in.
And a firm could actually start that without actually contributing. So it could be just the employees.
Absolutely. 401k is just one retirement plan style. There's also simple IRAs and SEP IRAs. And those are kind of like lower beginner level, if you will, the starter method to get into that retirement plan space just to get things going. And then you can graduate into the 401k side and the profit sharing, the defined benefit, deferred comp, and all these different types of plans that are available. The starting point, and there's a lot of states now. There's 43 states that mandate either pass or propose to have a retirement plan for your employees. 43 states.
How many employees more?
A lot of them are five employees minimum. California just finished off, I think it's the end of this year with one. California there's a lot of activity going on in California right now, but each state does have a mandate option. And it's basically a bag of IRAs is really what it is. So I think you said you had a Roth IRA. You said it's a bunch of Roth IRAs that the employer can withhold their contributions, the employee contribution, and send it off to that. Now, the investments are poor, to say the least. There's minimal, just a handful of mutual fund options beside those. So a lot of times, the states will say, you either implement a 401k or a simple IRA or something like that, or you can just the state mandate option. For California, for example, I think I believe you're in California, right?
Texas.
Texas. But Texas is one of the 7 that don't have anything. Florida, I remember it is, or Montana maybe. But California has something called Cal Stavers, is where you can go into and plug in. Maryland has a mandate. Illinois is up and running. And then there's a number that have passed, a lot have passed or proposed in the near future.
Okay. So depending on your state, you're going to be required to do some sort of retirement at 5 to, because I knew there was something I thought I remember with a minimum of 10 employees, you've got to do something. Yeah. I forget what it was. Like, well, it's health insurance or something like that.
Yeah. Not in Texas. Texas is one state that has no mandate even proposed at this point for a retirement plan. Same with Florida, Montana. I think New Hampshire as well, if I remember correctly, but almost every other state has something up and running or on its way.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting. And so when do I say it's not mandated at 5 employees, but when do I know in the growth side of my firm, when is a good time to start talking to you, to start going, okay, now we are December, we need to get ready, or 2026. So what would I look for?
Yeah.
When would I start making that planning process?
So assuming, yes, you do want to do the 401k and we're past the point of saying, what is the reason for it? More of, yes, we need to implement something, but what are we doing? I always start early asking questions. Just ask questions, look it up. There's a vast world of information out there on 401ks, but most of them are kind of like the lower level questions. And how do I design this? And it's like a boilerplate version is what you're going to see out there. There's not a lot of content around the details, if you will. And that's what we're trying to do is get that out. There's a lot of deadlines. The bottom layer, that bottom layer of that upside down through to your wedding cake, that is due by 12/31. You have to have it implemented sometimes to a certain kind, call it safe harbor, that's October 1st for 2025. So it takes about 60 days to get things up and running. So usually by summer is when you have to start asking questions and figuring these things out. Profit sharing isn't due. You don't even have to implement the plan up until the day you file, including extension. So for all of you who have not filed, or you file an extension, an S corporation, and you file an extension, put you out to September, you don't have to implement or contribute up until that day you file your extension to implement and contribute for 2024. So you may have to file an extension because a lot of people who are S corporations, they're like, there's no way I want to by March 15th. Most S corps will file an extension. If you have filed an extension as of the date of reporting, you can still do something to 2024 and get that profit sharing. So those are the main dates. And even that 300 grand that I was telling you about earlier, that's also the same deadline. So those are called employer contributions. Those are not due until the day you file, including.
Okay. But say I wanted to start something, and I wanted to start in 2026. I need to have it filed and by December 31, 2025.
So it depends on where do you want your contributions to hit, right? You get those tax benefits of your contribution. So if you want a tax deduction for 2025, we need to start something before the end of the year. If you're looking for 2026, then you move to 2026. The part of those profit sharing where you can wait until next year if you want 2025. But the calculations aren't exactly always the best. And again, this is where you start those conversations. If you're just thinking about it in a year, start the conversation because there's different types of contributions inside of the 401k. It's not just running through your payroll. Some of it comes through your payroll. Some of it comes from your corporate account. Calculated differently. Each one of those has a different deadline. It's all about this is those questions that we ask. Why do you want to contribute? What is it that you're trying to do with the plan? And how much do you want to contribute? And then we go into further more details, like what type of FTE structure are you? How are you paying yourself? Tell me about your employee pool, like that. And then we're going to guide you into saying, hey, what is the best? So it's a huge, vast world trying to figure this out. I mean, it's really hard to figure it out on your own, especially if you're not in the finance industry, because sometimes the verbiage doesn't line up with what you're familiar with. And that's where the education, and that's absolutely what we're trying to do, is educate people. We're not selling people, we're trying to educate the solve. And that's our biggest.
This is not a one-way decision. So looking at I think to me, I'd probably start looking at a year ahead of time and get it on the calendar and kind of have an idea.
Just to figure out deadlines.
Yeah.
What are these deadlines? When do I need to implement? And when is it due? Okay, pause. We'll reach out in 6 months or 2 months or whatever it is. It is I don't want to say it's like an overwhelming thing. As long as you have the guidance and do one thing at a time. Trying to do it all at the last minute, 3 days before you file, you're probably pretty late in the game to try to figure it out. There's too much to figure out.
And once you have it set up, and do your employees all come in at the same time that you set it up, you're ready to go, everybody says, yes, I want in. New employees, do they have to wait a specific period of time? Is there an enrollment period? Or do I make that decision on how quickly I want them available to it?
That's a big part of the customization, and ensure that you're not using a boilerplate option. Eligibility. Who's allowed in and when? You can go anywhere between instant to 1 year before you allow your employees in. And then the vesting schedule on top of that is as well. Do we allow them to be with you for 1 year or 6 years before money goes to them if they were to leave the company? One thing you're allowed to do, a lot of people don't realize, you can push out as far as a year. Meaning your employees have to be with you for 1 year before they're allowed to put their own money in. But you can always add a special enrollment period. I just hired somebody, another attorney, and I need to get this person in the plan now to allow them to.
Part of the bonus badge.
Exactly. Yeah. And we can have a special enrollment period for anyone who's not eligible. Everyone's in. This person, usually law firms tend to be a little bit smaller, just a handful of employees, under 10 for the most part. And then you can do that. But at the same time, if you are bringing in an attorney versus staff, tend to say, I want to maybe take care of that person a little bit more. And that's where we get into that third layer, called benefits or not qualified, where you can target people. You can target one person or two people. And these are the folks that I want to focus on, because I want them to be part of this organization and the growth of my company. Or they might be your successor and you plan on them buying out your business. And you're like, I need that person to stay with me for 5 or 10 years at least. And you create like something called, one option is called LTIP, long-term incentive plan, only for that person alone and not everybody else. It's just for that person. So those are stacking on the one plan on top of the other. Everyone else gets a match, simplified, not a little bit easy. And then you focus on just that one individual to really make sure that it's different.
I love that. Now, when it comes to vesting of an employee, say I said that I want them to be with me 5 years before they're vested. So that means if they leave before 5 years, they don't get to take that money with them.
Yeah.
Correct?
So it depends on where we're at on that stack. So we're talking about the match that you're getting at, right? There's some rules. These are all these are qualified plans, meaning the IRS says, yeah, you can do these, but you have to follow these rules. We'll give you that tax incentive, but you have to follow these rules. You can do a cliff vest at 3 years, 0, 0, 0, 100, the money that you gave them, and then they can walk away after 3 years, or stretch it out to 6 years as a graded scale, which a lot of people are familiar with. 0%, 20, 40, 60, 80, and then 100% year 6. And you can build that out. A lot of times it depends on what type of plan you're doing. There's different rules, different types of 401ks. On that first question that I ask, what is the goal? And then we'll say, here's your vesting options with this. Because we know if you want to max out, you need to use one of these kinds of 401ks. And those have a menu of options. Or if you don't care, then you have a little bit more flexibility, but you're going to be limited to how much you can put in. Now, that's the first and second layer. Now, the third, that L tip I was mentioning, these are called non-qualified plans. You can basically do whatever you want. You're bonusing them that money, and a lot of times it's a 10% calculation of their salary is what you end up giving them in that third layer. And most of the time it's a stretch over 10 years. So it might be 10, 20, 30, 40. And in year 5, you'd say, here's 50% of your salary. Another 50 after 10 or 100% after 10. It's usually around 10% is the minimum that on that level. You can budget into it. It comes in the form of a bonus. And obviously we all know if it's a bonus, it comes off your books. It's deferred to the attorney. That's a very simplified version. There's more advanced versions of that where you have a little bit more control, but that's just kind of a really step one, especially for smaller companies. That's a really great first step to really incentivize those stories.
Wow. Very, very interesting. So bottom line is to plan early. Get started planning early so you have the calendar down, you know what your rules are. And do you help the 401k decide what package of mutual funds are going to be held in it? Like, is it typically like a family? So you cover small cap, large cap, the blue chips and all of that tech?
Yeah. When you build a menu out, and you remember the way you change everything, it's just you as the attorney, just you and your solo entrepreneur, you can do whatever you want. If you want to self-direct, you self-direct, and you put all your money in one stock if you want it, or cryptocurrency. Do whatever you want with that. But once you have employees, there's a lot more liability. So we often we'll add that level of fiduciary risk to us and take it up the import. Because if you're managing those funds for your employees, you are in essence their financial advisor. The owner is the financial advisor of your employees.
And we don't want that.
We don't want. We all, especially in the legal industry, understand liability. We will help create that. There are regulations in place, like you need to have a default fund. You need to check off all the boxes. And the goal is to create the best of each one of those categories. And then sometimes we'll allow the owner in the situation, the owner can self-direct. And then we can do it. Pure customization is the key. There's a lot more gray area in the 401k space that meets the eye than what you see on the direct consumer websites where you say, I need a 401k, you Google it, who takes you to the biggest organization. They create these processes to simplify their internal processes. And they only allow X to Y, Z, but they don't allow A through S or whatever it is. So much more you can do. And the whole point is building the plan for your business instead of everybody else's. That is the absolute number one thing, is you can make changes along the way. Business is a pivot. Constantly.
Okay.
That's a little pivot, right? As you grow, you hired someone else. You evolve month to month, day to day, and your plan needs to be able to evolve with it. And that's why we can amend the plan easily, because if that plan is built for the person and everyone else, we can.
That was my next question is, can these change as your circumstances change and you grow and your business grows?
Not only can you just add those layers onto that retirement plan stack, you change the mold of each one of those plans. You could change it. Certain things you have to wait till, the next calendar year. Some things you can change mid-year, depending on what we're doing. Again, they're trying to protect the employees, is really what the IRS and the Department of Labor and are trying to protect the employee. As long as you're doing that, then the employer can really flourish inside of this. And we'd like to work with the CPAs. How does it all connect? How do we communicate today? And maybe this doesn't work, but ongoing consultation is the absolute number one. Being added to the team is where we like this. We're all on the same side of the table and just have conversations about it.
Okay. So if you think one of the biggest takeaways that people listening would get from this advice, what would you say the number one thing?
There's two, really. It's one, start early, have conversations, don't wait till the last minute. Not all 401ks are pretty. There's not a one size fits all. There's a lot of gray area that you can get in.
This has been very interesting. Like I said, I knew enough to probably get in trouble. So thank you for explaining those and telling us what the differences there. I know my listeners might want to reach out to you and connect with you. Where can they connect with you more about you?
Easiest website on the planet. It's called 401k.expert. 401k.expert is our way, is where you can get in touch with me. Someone, either myself or someone on our team, they just ask questions. You can get in touch and just start asking away. And that's, again, the first step. If you need to reach out to us in a year, we'll touch base with you in a year. So no problem.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been a really great instructive. I'm excited to hear all of this. I hope whoever's listening, if you're thinking about it or if your state's just past that you reach out to Matt and start talking about the 401k that you're required to do. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me today for this episode. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do two things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, you can connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take the next step with a digital strategist to help you grow your law firm, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to lawmarketingzone.com to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, thanks for listening to Leadership in Law Podcast, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Leadership in Law Podcast. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of law firm owners out there facing similar challenges and striving for the same success. Head over to our website at lawmarketingzone.com. From there, connect with other listeners, access valuable resources, and stay up to date on the latest episodes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, keep leading with vision and keep growing your firm.